If you have a lot of work to get done, or you're a leader who wants to quantify the work that you've either completed or still have outstanding, then this video on story points and relative estimation is for you. It's common for teams to face challenges when they're trying to estimate workload. And there can be a lot of disagreement about how long something will take, or sometimes teams are just overwhelmed by the large but uncertain amount of work ahead of them in the backlog. But one of the main challenges I see teams face is that estimating workload using the traditional approach of absolute sizing is both personal and subjective. And so story points and relative estimation, it provides us with a better option. You can feel confident knowing how much work you have to do using a specific measurement for your workload, like story points. I found using story points has really helped provide an objective, shared measurement for how much effort work will take. Story points are powerful because they use relative estimation. So what are story points and what is this relative estimation? Well, story points are just simply a numeric value assigned by the team to a given user story. This value represents how much work is it going to take to complete the user story. So nothing too crazy there, but the magic is how that value gets determined, and that's what leads us to the process of relative estimation. Relative estimation, or sometimes you'll hear it called relative sizing, is the method of measuring new work relative to past work. So you have something new come in and you go, oh, how big is this compared to what we've done in the past? This is in contrast to absolute measurements like hours spent or lines of code written. And here's why that matters. Because absolute measurements, well, they include a lot of assumptions, because really, you don't know how many lines of code it's going to take until you get it all done. And trying to land on a specific absolute measurement like hours that it's going to take, it wastes a lot of time and debate, because what you're really measuring isn't the work when you're using absolute measurement. You're measuring the person. I mean, think about it. Try and answer the question, well, how long will this take? Well, it depends. Who's doing it? How much experience do they have? How quick are they? Let's use an everyday example. Like, think about this ceiling. If I wanted to texture it, how long will it take? Well, if I'm doing it, I hate texturing. I'm terrible at it. It's going to take, how long it's going to take is going to be measured in days. But I've seen pros come in and texture a whole house in minutes. It's crazy. So you're not measuring the work, you're measuring me. And this is a major pitfall that teams run into. They equate story points to hours, and then they lose all the benefits of relative estimation. So what are some of our alternatives? Well, two story point strategies for you to consider are the Fibonacci Sequence and using t-shirt sizes. If you want a deeper dive into either of these, check out the links to videos and posts in the description. We'll kind of cover them super briefly here, but you can dive in deep there. The Fibonacci Sequence is really just the numbers you get when you start with 1 and 2, and then every subsequent number is the sum of the previous two. So the sequence looks something like 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. And t-shirt sizing, well, it's just kind of like what it sounds like too. It's extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. And in both approaches, the value at any point is the size of the previous two values added together. So a medium is the same as a small and an extra small added together. So now what do you do? How do you use this on a team? Well, first you create a library of all your past user stories, or if you're new to user stories, just past tasks. And you group them together with others that were about the same size, same amount of effort. I know none of them are exactly the same, but you're kind of looking approximately the same size. Now then you might need to nudge some of these around, these groups of relatively similar sizes. So the same relationship exists that the ones that are in the medium group, any one of those tasks is about the same amount of effort as one of the ones from the small and one of the ones from the extra small. This often happens without trying, but sometimes it does need a little bit of help tweaking it. But you want that same separation between, say, the medium and the small so that it's clear which group a new user story belongs in. So maybe if you're a graphic designer, this is like, something like a style guide is about the same amount of work as, let's say, a presentation template and a series of Instagram templates added together. I don't know, just making something up. But once you have these groups, then when a new task or user story comes in, you say, okay, is it about the same amount of effort as the ones in this group or the ones in that group? So you're comparing the new work to past work. And that's why it's relative sizing. You're measuring it relative to the past work. And you see how much easier and faster that is than taking a new task and going, how many hours is this going to take? These story points give you a consistent, easy to use numeric measurement for calculating your workload, calculating how long something's going to take. And by adding these up in the backlog, you can see, well, how much work do we have left? By adding them up over the course of a sprint, you can see how fast your team is moving through those story points. And so then you can forecast how long will it take my team to work through that backlog. You know, it may take a little while for your team to adjust to relative sizing because it is a little different than absolute sizing, but once they get the hang of it, they move fast and you don't burn time in needless discussions of how many hours something's going to take. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video on story points and relative estimation. I've got a lot more coming. Check out the description for links to videos and posts about user stories, about story points, and about Scrum and Agile in general. If you have any questions, throw those in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can get more helpful videos like this one. Thanks. See you next time.